Hello everyone, welcome back to Discovering Dawson's Creek here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel on Morgan Hasn't Seen TV. What an interesting pair of episodes we have today, I think, Janine. I think there's a lot of good going on here. There's a lot of enjoyability factor going
I'd
on
like to
here
hear that.
in these two episodes. I like that our gang are branching out. They go and visit a university in this episode, don't they? Jack decides to try, well, he's pushed a little bit, but he decides to try and get out there, as a free and single gay man, and we see how that goes. I enjoy that for Jack. I want to see good for Jack. We also have craziness based on who actually is in love with who and who likes who and who's kissing who. Oh, it's all very ridiculously teenage, isn't it? At one point as
You
well.
have to expect that from this show. It's just written into it. Teen melodrama.
It really is. We've got an awful lot of craziness going on, I think, in these couple of episodes that have two very distinctly stupid titles for the names of them, just because it's clearly Dawson's Creek trying to be funny, and are they successful in being funny? It was like, what was it, Escape from Witch Mountain or whatever it was last week.
Escape from Witch Island.
It was Escape from Witch Mountain. Witch, well, the one with witches, and then you make the joke.
Island, no mountain.
Well, what's that? That's a movie, isn't it? Escape from Witch Mountain.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we've got going on. Do you want to get your binder out and get us started right away, Janine? Are these two episodes that you are particularly engrossed with, or are these just kind of run-of-the-mill season 3?
I mean, it's always nice to see Dawson get humbled, so that was a fun thing.
Yes,
we're also introducing a second black character in the season, so that's enjoyable as well.
My heart has stopped beating. Dawson's Creek. What's going on here? The whitest show ever. Liked inexplicably by yourself, given that it's the whitest show ever.
Yes.
We do, yes, which is actually quite interesting and quite a nice. It is a humbling moment for Dawson as well, which is always nice. You are right, and he's very self-righteous in this particular in the university episode, isn't he? Where he goes and he has his nice little Blair Witch Project film that he gets immediately torn apart for. Because it's just another Blair Witch Project. How very original, Dawson. And then he's left with egg on his face like the idiot he is. There you go.
Yes. So that's always a good thing to see Dawson just come down a little bit from his little high horse and self-righteousness. We also see Joey being a little self-righteous.
Horrible to Dawson. I mean, if Dawson was a real person, we would be bullies.
Probably. Yes. But he needs it. He's too high on himself.
That's what bullies say about victims, Janine. That's what bullies say about it. They need it. It'll toughen them up.
We're not trying to tough him up. We're just trying to tell him he's a twat.
Yes, we just actively try to be cruel, which is even worse.
He's obnoxious at times. I think we've established how obnoxious.
Oh no, I'm not saying we should stop. I'm just I want to acknowledge the fact we have
we would be bullies. Yes, we would be bullies of the big bullies of Capeside if the Dawson were real person. So yes, episode 309, 4 to Tango.
Yes, it should be 2, but this is Dawson's Creek, so there has to be 4.
It's all very leading 4 messy characters. Yes, and we're getting quite a few group episodes, so I like that.
You know what we are? I like it. It's different.
Yeah. 4 to Tango. Only the lonely. Dawson is suspicious of Pacey's awkward behavior and misconstrues his actions when he learns Pacey has been spending time with Joey. Meanwhile, after rethinking the offer, Pacey cannot move forward with his no strings attached relationship with Jen, and Andie urges Jack to meet a gay student from a neighboring town who contacted him via the internet after seeing Dawson's news story.
Yes. Should we start off with Jack and his internet dating? Because I don't trust internet dating in the turn of the millennium, Janina. I just don't. There's
I mean,
nothing about it.
This seemed pretty safe. I mean, Andie vetted the whole situation. We saw the guy, so it wasn't like he was catfishing.
I
So
mean,
we
yeah.
know the picture that he showed was, the same guy. Andie made sure, she took steps to make sure that he, was legit. But it was just Jack not quite being ready. Like he felt like it was a lot all at once. And it was just a little too much for him to handle.
It really, really was. I think this is where Jack's at his best as a character. I think because he almost wants to accept himself, doesn't he? He wants to accept himself so much, and he wants to live a normal life so much, and it's said in these kind of over dramatic terms. Should it be said in these over dramatic terms? Probably not, because we're making a bit too much of a big deal of something that's fairly typical, or at least we feel it's fairly typical in today's world. 25 years ago, perhaps not.
And a small town life.
And in a small town, sure. Yeah. So I think that can still take a bit of time to get used to if you are in the mindset of us. But he just panics a lot, and he worries a lot, and he worries about what it will look like, and he worries about if he will be able to do the right thing and live up to what this other guy he's talking to will expect from him. And there's all worries.
Yeah.
And because he's essentially a newly come out, gay man. He's has no experience in this regard whatsoever.
That makes him incredibly insecure,
It makes him incredibly insecure. This is what panics him. This is what gives him all this anxiety. And not one of the people he talks to are ever bothered by it. It's all him.
Yeah.
He is the one bothered by his own
he builds it up. He's looking at the straight couples around and thinking that everyone's going to be judging him for not being that. He's worried about talking to this person who has experience and he doesn't, that they're going to be judging him. And he takes a lot of this into the next episode as well. So I like this kind of little setup showing that he's not quite ready. That leads into the next episode. So
I do find internet dating, though, in this time very, very ridiculous, because you're doing it in like a library or an internet cafe. And this is the last kind of public place. You don't want to be doing this in a public place. You don't want to be flirting with somebody over instant messaging emails or whatever it is. In a public place, do you? And then having to be all shady, like, what's going on? Don't look at what I'm doing.
Wait forever for the picture to load.
Semicolon bracket, because I'm sending a wink face. Like, don't look at what I'm doing, librarian. I'll be kicked out. And it's it's silly, but it happened. But I like it, and Andie's obviously very excited for him. It's probably the most reasonably positive Andie's been the entire season so far.
Yeah, I like seeing her put her energies into something like this, as opposed to kind of like the silly stories we've been getting with her, with being like the hall monitor and those kinds of things, and then also this kind of cheating scandal that's still kind of looming in the background.
It very much is.
Yes, or her, being mad at Pacey, even though she's the one who kind of messed up the relationship. So I prefer to see Andie like this, using her energies and her productive qualities to help Jack in this way. And even though she was kind of pushing quite a bit, I like when, he says he ultimately didn't meet the guy and he just was watched him through the window. He was
Yeah.
too nervous to go in, that she doesn't, criticize him or judge him. She's very understanding and accepts what he says and his reasoning. So, I like that there's a balance of her kind of pushing him, but then, once she sees ultimately that he's just not ready, she accepts that wholeheartedly and she's not pushing anymore. Because I
Yeah.
think we've seen an Andie who kind of pushes a little too much. So
Yeah, far too much.
when she's waiting at Graham's house to hear, the play-by-play of what happened, and Jack tells her he ultimately didn't go in, there's a little glimmer in the back of our minds thinking that she might judge him or
Yeah.
criticize him for not doing it or not being brave enough. So I like that she kind of defies bits of the Andie that we know and is completely wholeheartedly understanding to his reasonings as to not why he didn't go. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the Andie I enjoyed from last
yeah,
season.
yeah,
Which was nice to see again, because look, yeah, that was a step for Jack. Jack's taken the step to contact and then actually go. He's not
yeah,
gone through with it. And then in the next episode, we see him actually enter a place,
yeah,
like a gay club or gay
yeah.
bar, and spend some time in there. Again, becomes very
Very
worried, becomes
panicked
very
and
panicked.
runs off.
But
Yeah,
that's a step further than what he got last episode. So
yeah,
this is only surely going to go in the correct direction. This is only
yes,
surely an upward trajectory, right?
yeah,
And
yes.
it's just taking him time. And because I think we want to see this for Jack, because I think we all like and respect Jack as probably the most sensible kind of, I suppose, easy to not to be mad with character in the whole show,
Yeah.
consistently. We want to see the best from him. So I don't think we like that it's taking so long, but I think we like
And
that these steps are
he's
going in the right
yeah,
direction.
that he's stepping out there. Because yeah, like, even this is the first time we've seen him express attraction to another guy. So even when
Yeah,
he saw the
properly.
picture of
Yeah.
the guy and kinda said, "Ooh, yeah, he is good looking," kinda thing, and even Andie has a reaction, she's like, "Oh, Jack," because she's never heard him express that kind of attraction to a guy. So, yeah, baby steps for Jack this episode, which I appreciated. And I could be
Yes.
especially it's more gratifying as well knowing that it kind of blooms a little bit further in the next episode. So,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely. But the main four of Dawson's Creek are
Yeah.
all messing with each other and getting annoyed with each other and not being sure where each other are,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden Dawson thinks he's got ownership of Joey again.
Yes, and I love, we have a scene of Pacey calling him out for that. Yeah, because Pacey and Jen are still kind of trying to do this friends with benefits pact where they could just kind of hook up, but it's just not working. The vibes just
No,
aren't clicking like they were on Witch Island and all these things. So they
that's
just kind of
because there was spiritual entanglements going on.
yes, and and I like them
There's
kind of
magic in
yeah,
Capeside.
exactly. But I like them kind of breaking down their stats and reminding us, like, look at our track
Right.
record. It's like we should be like going at it. But for whatever reason, it's just not flowing.
It
And
does make you think, is it not that way because there might actually be genuine care here? And
yes.
this is unusual for the pair of them, that they're more infatuation people, they're more kind of
Yeah,
in the
I think
moment,
yes.
um, lustful kind of people rather
Yes.
than any sort of deeper situation. And maybe
Yeah.
this is a deeper situation, so maybe this is why they can't. I don't know, obviously, if this
I
goes anywhere. But
I think it comes out of the thought that they're just very similar. They're too much alike, and
mm,
that's maybe why it doesn't work. So they do kind of we do end the episode with them kind of deciding that this isn't going to happen. Um, but ultimately, we see them kind of try to make this work throughout the episode. They decide to like sneak into Dawson's room because he's at school all day. No one's going to be in the house, so it's the perfect place to kind of just do this hookup, but it's just not working. Then
They
they
need to
hear
lock the house. Like, can I just say that? They need to lock the house up properly.
it's been heavily established that in Capeside, this is a town where people don't lock their doors. So
I know this, but that's what needs to happen. We can't be having random.
well,
I
the
understand they're
doors,
people you know, but we can't be having Pacey and Jen
yes,
try and
but
get intimate on Dawson's bed in the middle of the day.
yes, but I mean, doors are not even necessary at Dawson's because there's the ladder in his window. So,
Well, yeah.
um, yes. So, yeah, they're in his room fooling around. It's not working out. And then they hear somebody come home. Jen runs out, but Pacey's not fast enough. And then he has to kind of act like he's just playing video games in Dawson's room. Dawson seems a bit suspicious. I think the next day he finds a condom there. So he's very much confused as to what's going on. Then he kind of sees Pacey and Joey kind of being a little bit secretive because he's starting to fail classes. He asks Joey for help, and so they make this arrangement. If she, helps him study and get good grades, he will do this dance class with her where she could win a financial scholarship or money or
Yeah.
something. So,
And I enjoyed seeing this again because I think the Pacey and Joey build-up of the
yeah.
earlier part of the season was forgotten a little bit in the last couple of episodes in favor of this friends with benefits Jen situation.
Yes, and so this is where those two kind of storylines collide because it is kind of found out that Jen and Pacey have this kind of arrangement, and
Mm,
Joey kind of obnoxiously, I think, kind of like how it bugged me a little bit with her when she was kind of guilt tripping Jen on forgiving her mother with her own kind of lost mother story,
yeah.
her being kind of on her high horse in this situation. Because Pacey does kind of hypothetically bring it up to her that, like, friends with benefits thing is something I'm doing with somebody right now,
Mm.
and it's just kind of scratching each other's backs kind of thing, and she's just like, that is so immoral. You shouldn't sleep with somebody unless you love them. How you're both going to get hurt when you're dabbling in sex and there's no feelings involved, and she's kind of making
And
this
this
big deal
makes me
about it.
start thinking again, though. This makes me start thinking: is Joey seeing something in Pacey there that she wants herself?
Yes, I mean, does it read a little bit as jealousy to you, her kind of
I
reaction?
think it does. I
Yeah,
think it does. I do not think this is just Joey being
on a
morally
high horse
righteous.
moral thing. Yes.
This is a pang of jealousy going on because of the bond that they have grown together, particularly obviously in the early part
Yeah.
of this season.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, she calls
I
out
just
like,
see it,
and she just calls out like the name of his boat. Oh, you believe in true love, but yet you're willing to kind of do this whole kind of casual thing with somebody.
right?
So yeah, she does have this kind of fairly big overreaction to catching Jen and Pacey because it all kind of comes to a head. Dawson kind of knows that they're lying about something or keeping a secret from him. He can't find Pacey anywhere or nail him down to talk to him about this condom he found in his room in the middle of the day. Jen is looking for Pacey so that they can maybe do a hookup, and then Dawson and Jen see Joey and Pacey walking into this dance place. They follow them in there, and yeah, that's kind of where everything kind of comes together. The dance instructor has kind of everybody dance with one another, so she has Pacey and,
Yes.
and Dawson dance, and Pacey and Dawson, this conversation is really interesting, and Pacey, like, really kind of saying these loving things about Joey.
Yeah,
Um,
I think at this conversation in particular seemed to me there's been several of them, to be honest with you, over the
yeah.
course of this show so far. But why is Pacey friends with Dawson? I don't genuinely understand why Pacey's friends with Dawson, because the amount of times he will just go, "Shut up, Dawson, whatever, I don't even care anymore," and walk off. And he does that here. This is
Or
what
when
because he recognizes Dawson is not only number one completely wrong about the situation and what you know, what is going on in
Yeah.
Dawson's head is not at all what's actually going on.
Yeah.
But then he's behaving the way he's behaving about it, being overly righteous and telling people what they should be doing and things like that, because that's what he does.
Yeah.
I don't understand why Pacey's friends with him, because when actually has there been actually any sort of loving friendship moments specifically between the two of them? There's been far more arguments and far more disagreements, and them being, particularly Dawson, being horrible to Pacey over the course of 2.5 seasons so far, than I've ever seen them having actual one-on-one friendship bonding scenes. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
really beginning to question the whole thing. I am.
yes. And, like, yeah, there have been I think more moments where Dawson has prejudged Pacey or assumed the worst of Pacey, forgetting his birthday. I think that's maybe the most friend thing we saw was, you know, him making it up to him later that evening.
Yeah, but
Um,
it didn't change anything. I'm pretty sure I said that as much when we
yes.
did that episode.
Um, yeah, when they
Doesn't
go to
matter to me.
Providence with Jen's ex, that's kind of like buddy kind of thing.
I guess,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So, but I would agree that there seems to be far more moments of Dawson kind of prejudging, dismissing Pacey, rather than kind of being a good friend to him. So, yes, I love this conversation when Dawson seems to have this possessive, upset reaction when he thinks something's going on between Pacey and Joey. Um,
Yeah.
and Pacey calls him out. He's like, "She is not your girlfriend anymore. You broke it off with her. You said you were done with her. So why do you still try to stake some claim over her?" The next guy, you know,
Exactly.
"Look at this woman." And he points to Joe. He's like, "Look at this woman. She is a goddess. She is gorgeous." And the next guy who comes along isn't going to ask for your permission.
No, it's
He's
not
not
gonna
going
be
to be your
me. It's
best
not gonna be
friend.
your. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I
It's gonna
love
be
that he
some
kind of called it
randomer.
like, yes, who's just gonna come for her. So you need to either, you know, shit or get off the pot. Either realize you want to be with her and claim her as your girl, or leave it alone. And you don't can't have this stake over her and get pissed when any other guy kind of looks at her whatever way.
And then he's left
And
looking
so
like this
yes, so I
in
love that
that
he kind of shut Dawson up. Yeah, because what is
ridiculously
Dawson gonna say to that?
favorable. Well, you can't say anything to it, but it's the
Yeah.
one great face James Van Der Beek has, is just this sad sack
Oh
looking.
no, you still got a great face to come.
Oh,
You see that?
I know, I know about the gifs and the memes and all this kind of stuff. I'm well aware of
I
this.
believe
Right
that's the end
before
of this
all
season,
this
I
bit.
wanna say, so
Oh, phenomenal. I can't actually wait. But
I
what
recall.
Van Der Beek is actually really good at doing is looking half annoyed and half devastated in
Yeah,
just his
yeah,
face
a little bit
and a look.
petulance thrown in there as well, like
Really
child
pet.
having a
Yeah.
in there. Um, yeah,
I
so
would call it, I would say in a great phrase, throwing a wobbly is what he does, which is just, you know, yeah, being
yeah, it's what
petulant,
it sounds
being a
like. Yeah.
child.
Yes. So, yeah, I love Pacey calling him out in this moment. Pacey reveals to Joey that like Dawson thinks that they're hooking up. He reveals to Jen and they kind of trade information. So that's how Pacey finds out that that's what Dawson thinks.
Yeah.
And it's this whole kind of mixed up thing because they keep kind of switching dance partners. Um, and then once again, like Pacey kind of becomes the one who gets shit on by everybody. Like
He
this is all
does.
his fault because Dawson's coming at him, Joey's coming at him for making this arrangement. She says some really harsh things to Jen. So yes, where I can kind of when I can kind of agree with you and say, okay, it's less about this high and mighty moral kind of attitude with Joey because it seems like
Yeah.
there is some genuine jealousy there and that's what's driving these comments. But
It's still not
then
good.
no, and then it gets nasty when she kind of says these things about Jen and kind of writes
Yeah.
her off that she needs to kind of you know, go back to her kind of bad girl ways and
Mm.
you know, that she would expect it from her, but not from Pacey.
Yes,
Kind of
we
very
don't like this judgment of Jen.
yeah,
We thought we
because
were over this.
yes. So once kind of everything comes out, it's when Pacey, everyone's kind of coming at Pacey for the mix up of this situation, but it's still not fully revealed to Dawson or Joey yet that that it's a Jen and Pacey
Yeah.
situation. Pacey goes to the coat closet because he's just annoyed getting ready to leave, goes to get his coat. Jen goes to get her coat and talk to him. And then they kind of end up having this vibe that like was Witch Island vibe. And
Yes.
they're starting to feel it a little bit. So then they start making out. And that's when Joey and Dawson walk in and catch them making out. And Dawson's like elated because he's like, phew, it's not Joey.
I mean,
So
he is right.
yeah,
He
so
literally,
you can,
you hear the sigh of relief almost, and he kind of just goes, huh,
yeah,
like
which is
that.
just
He's
this
just
like
like,
relationship.
oh, thank God
Yeah.
it's only this. I no
Yes,
longer care.
exactly. So this really shitty double standard he has that, oh, when it's not Joey, I don't care anymore. I don't have any kind of moral quandary with this or moral high ground or attitude towards Pacey because it's not Joey. So like
What is it
that
about?
was
What
annoying.
is it about Joey? I know
And
I'm
Jen
Team Joey.
says as much. Well, Jen says as much. Be-
She does,
because
but there
yeah,
is something inexplicable about Joey Potter who
exactly.
everybody is drawn to. For some reason, I am drawn to as well, and
Yes.
I don't even like her as a person that much. I just kind of, I want the best for her, maybe because she is such a sympathetic character
Yeah.
and painted that way.
Yeah.
But and she always does mean well. But she can do horrible things. She can do nasty things. She can say really
Horrible things.
spiteful things.
Yes. So I like this moment when and then she kind of goes on this whole big speech about you both are going to get hurt. This is not a smart idea. Da, 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 da. And then they kind of reveal to her like, we've made a pact. We've decided our feelings aren't in it. Like, and she just ignores kind of all of that. And yeah, once they kind of both leave, Jen gets a little bit upset with Pacey because she doesn't think Joey knows the whole context. And he reveals to her that she does because he hypothetically told her about the situation. So now she
Mm,
knows what it is. So she feels a bit betrayed in that moment. But then she does come back to him and they have kind of a sweet moment. But that's also when she kind of has a little speech like you just had, like, what is it with this Joey Potter that,
yeah.
I don't have, like, everyone seems to be in love with her. And she has this little bit of kind of insecurity about it, which I like because we've seen that from her from the start. When, Dawson was infatuated with her, she still felt like she
Yeah.
had to contend with Joey in some way. And
Yeah.
Joey was mean to her. So it kind of, I feel like this moment of Joey attacking her a little bit maybe had this visceral kind of flashback for Jen when Joey used to treat her that way when they first met, is kind of where my
I
head
do
goes.
wonder. I really do wonder if, I mean, I know it's probably is not a great thing to kind of think about necessarily because it would be pitting two women against each other, and this isn't a nice thing to do
Yeah.
publicly. But was there ever a culture of Team Joey versus Team Jen in any sense, in just kind of favorite Dawson's Creek leading lady?
I mean, I think it was a little bit. I don't think it was to the like Team Edward, Team Jacob level of
That's what I'm
rivalry.
getting at. Yeah, that's what I'm
Yes.
getting at.
And then obviously I think you're sensing the energy that it's probably it ends up kind of being more about Team Pacey or Team Dawson rather than Team
Right.
Joey and Team
Okay.
Jen. Because I think ultimately no one really wants Dawson, like
No one's Team Dawson.
audience wise. So making Dawson the kind of middle perspective of two women, I don't think it built any kind of momentum because Dawson didn't really show that he was like this coveted thing that people wanted or that,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
fandom wanted. And so then it just becomes a Team Dawson, Team Pacey, when it comes
Yeah.
to Joey kind of being in the middle. So
I don't even know
that
if I mean.
had more traction than I think a
I
Jen
get that.
Joey from what I remember. Yeah.
I get that. I don't even necessarily mean in a romantic sense, though, just in terms of which character do you prefer? or which character do you kind of side with their stance on things more and their way of feeling? Because 100% you get Jen's reaction of, what is it about Joey? Why is it always Joey? I don't get it. You know, I thought we had a thing here. I thought me and Dawson had a thing, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was. And we didn't because of Joey. And yeah, okay, Joey's fine. I never used to get on with Joey that much, but we've become a little bit, a little bit more friendly, a little bit closer, but I still don't quite get it. And you're sat there watching it going, yeah, I mean, I kind of understand that, right?
Yes,
I kind of understand that perspective, absolutely.
Yes, I love
but then I understand Joey's potentially jealous perspective, if she is jealous, of getting on a kind of seeming high horse about all this.
That relationship, so ultimately she does find Pacey later back in the dance studio. I think he just was sat there kind of stressing out, and she goes to get her coat. And she before that, she does have a talk with Dawson, and of course he writes it off, if they want to do that, they can do that. Like, I don't see any problem with it.
He does not care at all.
Yes, exactly. They're both consenting, so it's fine. And she's still kind of like, but how can you do that? And he's like, well, I would never do that. Like, no, I wouldn't, sleep with someone I didn't love.
He would never do anything wrong.
I don't think they should be judged for it, even though you were so much. So I think he kind of maybe gives her that perspective, even though he's like being such a hypocrite. And so she goes back to get her coat. She sees Pacey sitting there, and she apologizes for overreacting, and tries to kind of understand his perspective. And then I think they kind of reconcile things and make peace with it. So that's kind of where we end things with Four to Tango.
It's it's an interesting one. I don't know where, after these couple of these last few episodes, I don't know where Pacey's romance, shall we say, is going to end up towards the back end of this season. Now, I was so convinced it was one way a few weeks ago. But this Jen thing is now interesting me much more. Yet that strong, I read it as jealousy from Joey, still
looms large.
Holding there for me. It is looming large. It is
okay.
It feels strong.
Also, something we just didn't mention about this episode was this interesting thing that I don't think you really think about until it's said or stated, that this struggle that Pacey has with schoolwork, and he has kind of equated doing well in school with sexual things, because the people who actually helped him do better in school were Tamara and Andie. So when he's trying to work with Joey, he's like, as soon as I open a book, like all I want to do is close it and not do anything. So, and he explains that to her. And so that's how kind of the hypothetical hookup conversation comes into play.
Yeah, like it sounds absurd, but psychologically it makes perfect sense.
Yes. So just a funny thing to point out, that you don't really think about it, and you're like, I could see him making that
he's a teenager. Why would his mind not immediately equate those things?
Yes, because he did do better and studied harder and did good in school when he was with Tamara and Andie, because they would reward him in that way. So to be studying with Joey and it not being that dynamic is kind of funny. And the fact that he called
maybe it will get to that dynamic. Who knows? So, this is what I'm potentially waiting for.
Okay. So
I'm still with that thought, I think.
Would you be happy with that thought coming to fruition?
I think I would be at this point. I think I would be happy with that thought coming to fruition at this point, because it would be interesting, and it would upset Dawson. And I'm just thinking, maybe if crying Dawson ends this whole season, is that where we end the season? Is that why he's crying so hard? I don't know, but maybe, and that excites me, because as much as we can just beat Dawson down, I want to do. We are bullies. We're horrible people.
I know. It's Dawson's Creek. We need to give Dawson more love. But we have given him props in the moments where he's been good.
He's just so few and far between. As a
Yeah.
lead character, he just constantly. He should be on ranking lists at the top of most insufferable lead characters of popular television shows.
I think he might.
Alongside Ross Geller
Yes,
and
he very much, yeah.
people like that.
Yeah, he's very much like the nice guy who's a little bit problematic. So, yeah.
This silly next episode. Come on, then. We're in. Are they at Harvard? Is that where they're at?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It seems to be Harvard-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's like because the college most of them end up going to in the college years episodes is I think Boston University. So,
oh, okay.
Boston
Well, it's in
College.
Boston. Harvard's just outside of Boston, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yes, we get into now episode 310, First Encounters of the Close Kind.
Stupid, ridiculous title. I love how Dawson's fondness for Spielberg gets called out again in this episode as well.
Oh yeah, as this kind of childlike idealism. Life is changing.
Is it now?
Dawson, Joey, Jack, and Andie spend the weekend at Boston University for an advanced look at college, and where Dawson has entered his Blair Witch documentary in a student film festival. Elsewhere on campus, due to a clerical error, Joey's weekend guide is not what she expected. Andie's pursuit for an advanced admissions interview leads her to some inspirational advice from an unlikely source, and Jack takes a risk and explores the local gay community.
Yes. So we've talked a little bit about Jack in this episode and how that kind of trajectory has just kept on going forward. I don't know how much we have to spend on that more now because it seems to me to just be that next step of him going out and trying to do things, but then not being fully able to, and him actually getting attention from one particular man in the bar as well.
Yes. And so, but at the end of this episode on the train back home or the bus back home, he does meet a handsome gay teen.
He does. Yes, he does.
And we'll see this guy again. So if that tells you anything.
Okay, nice.
So so there will be something happening that progresses his story a little bit.
I do like this. I think this whole episode really though, it's the tried and true story of small town great person Dawson Leary, who is Capeside's answer to the great cinema directors. Of course he is. And then the first instance he tries
big pond kind of situation.
In a big pond, putting his movie into any sort of festival whatsoever. This is a student film festival, by the way. He literally goes to the big city and realize he ain't all that. He's not all that. He thinks he's all that. He still thinks he's all that. He goes around like he's all that, and he tells people he's all that.
Yeah.
And he isn't. He just really isn't.
Yes. And so the girl who checks him in is played by Bianca Lawson. And, she very much kind of humbles him in the sense that, like, oh, it's just another Blair Witch ripoff. He says, Spielberg is his favorite director. And she kind of talks about this kind of naivete that comes with, being a fanboy of Spielberg and this kind of thing. And, she is speaking very knowledgeably and maturely and kind of knocking Dawson a little bit. So then when it does come time, he's supposed to do like a Q&A after as well. And so when he does go up for the, when he hears kind of these rumblings of negativity and harsh comments about his movie, the guy's like, Dawson Leary, come up for the Q&A, Dawson Leary. And he just kind of sinks in his seat, doesn't want to go up there, but he does. And the only question he gets is, "Oh, is that Joey girl here? She's hot," from like some girl in the crowd.
It
So
it it honestly must be. I know we're making fun of it, but it must be awful because he has put his all into these kind of projects. He has put
yeah,
absolutely everything. He loves it so much. And yes, to get no positive reaction at all, simply because it was this rip-off. It was just playing on
yeah,
a
on something that just
massively
came out.
popular
Yeah,
trope that was there at the present, wholly kind of unoriginal,
yeah,
trying to be original, which is we know from
just the
real
worst
movies
thing.
is the
Yeah.
worst way to be.
Yes, to try to
The
capitalize on something around the same time that it was popular.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is the absolute worst way to be. I don't I love as well how kind of turn of the millennium it is in terms of Bianca Lawson's kind of attitude towards liking Spielberg as
yeah.
well. And I think we always make fun of Dawson for being such a Spielberg fan above
Oh,
anybody else at all.
yeah,
But I do think this is a particular time in Hollywood where the edgy indie cinema is king. You know,
yeah,
this is what is anybody who likes movies likes little indie movies, likes weird things,
yeah.
likes, the things coming out of random, towns in nowhere, Nebraska and places like that, rather
Yeah,
than any
the big
sort of
budget, kinda
major
huge. Yeah.
Hollywood movie.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and this is exactly the kind of energy that she is giving. Because when you boil it down, like, why you're not allowed to like Spielberg? Literally, what's wrong with There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with he's
yeah,
an incredible filmmaker of that particular style, sure, mostly.
yeah.
Obviously, there's range there, though. We know
Yes.
there's range there
Yeah,
with Spielberg.
exactly. So that
Ridiculous range there.
yeah. So the write-off of this is just another kind of, thing to use to sober Dawson a little bit, I
Yeah,
think, and humble him.
but it is very much the attitude of turn of the millennium movie lover. We must like indie movies and
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yes, and I think it's part of the whole kind of, college experience of I think Joey
Yeah.
also kind of has a moment like this in the episode as well with these
Put
kind
your
of
Pulp Fiction poster on the dorm wall
yes.
we
But yeah,
worship
I think
Tarantino and things like that.
yes, and so I think both of them experience kind of these overeducated, kind of high art, we think we're so cool college people kind of,
Yeah.
telling them what's what. And them in and of themselves, like I love when Joey kind of calls them out as like overeducated kind of minions, like they think they're so smart. Um,
Mm.
but it wasn't that long ago that they were kind of where she was. So yeah, it's just a kind of another, I think, ping to show just kind of the college snobbery of it all as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, he
Yeah,
kind of
which
storms
is
out of his
fun.
yes. So he storms out of his screening and Nikki sees he's generally upset and kind of talks to him. And I like that she tries to give him constructive criticism. She's like, you know, I think where you went wrong, not that it was not mostly just that it was like a Blair Witch thing. It's the fact that like the most interesting part of your story was your relationship with Joey and you didn't really go into any of that. So
Yeah.
you left the kind of biggest, most interesting part of the story on the cutting room floor, and I
And
think
this is the
that's
thing,
where you
right?
went wrong.
This
Yeah.
this is the thing. I think if you want to be a filmmaker like Dawson wants to be a filmmaker, you cannot be so up yourself, shall we say.
Yeah, because he
You
gets
you
really
ca you
annoyed when
have
she
to
tries to
have humility. You have to
yeah,
be able to look at your own flaws if you
yeah,
want to be an introspective filmmaker.
yeah,
Now, some people don't want to be introspective filmmakers. I think we see this all the time. A lot of perhaps major blockbuster filmmakers don't necessarily feel that introspective all the time. But Dawson constantly talks about how he wants to tell real stories, real people,
Yeah.
you know, these kind of stuff. But if you want to tell like stories about your own experiences, think about the best movies that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Predominantly, I'd say from the 70s onwards, where a director has gone in and made a movie that essentially is about their own story and their own experience in
Yeah.
doing something. And every single one of the great ones are those filmmakers painting themselves as very, very flawed people.
Yeah.
Because they have that realization that this is not only interesting, not only the most interesting thing, and how we can overcome this and how this shapes us as people.
Yeah.
But who wants to sit there for 90 minutes and watch somebody making a movie about how themselves are great?
Are so great, yeah, who are so up on themselves. Like, I think you wanna kinda see somebody who already starts out humble, not expecting the best of things, and then those things kind of just come to them,
Yeah.
and how they react to it, as opposed to someone who kind of has this elevated, opinion of themselves,
Yeah.
and then they kind of get a little bit petulant when they do get knocked down, which does happen to Dawson. And then he ultimately, then we have this other screening and everyone's like gushing about this movie. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, who shot this? This is amazing. And then
A
who,
masterpiece. Now this is like made by a 19-year-old or something, so I'm not quite sure about that.
well, she goes to high school with Dawson. Well, she will be. We established that at the end of the episode. But yeah, and it's revealed to be Nikki who made this brilliant
Yes.
film. And so then when they're kind of giving, and so Dawson does have this little ping of jealousy, and like he kind of gets annoyed with her, or prejudges her, like, oh, he thought she was just some college worker, who was running, the movies at the counter. She's not somebody who could be this great filmmaker kind of thing. So they kind of go back and forth throughout the day, these two. And then ultimately when Nikki doesn't win the big prize like she's expecting it, because everyone
Yeah.
was talking about how great her movie was, she doesn't get any prize. And so then she kind of gets a really deep sense of what Dawson was feeling. And so then they can kind of
Yeah.
come together and have this common ground. By the end
Well,
of the
you get the
episode,
you also get the sense that that experience will make any future film that she makes better, because she will have been able to take that on board and see the flaws within whatever was there,
yeah,
despite it being liked. It's if Dawson, if somebody like Dawson, not Dawson specifically, but if somebody with the mentality of Dawson were to win that prize, it would only inflate the ego and make
yes.
any future movie that much more horrifically self-indulgent.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, I like the common ground they kind of come to when they find that, like, her movie was great, his was not so great, but they still kind of, don't go home with
Yeah.
any prizes. And so they can kind of understand how the other feels. And then ultimately on the bus, she reveals that she is Nikki Green, the daughter of the principal that we've met, the new principal of
Yes.
Capeside. She will be going to Capeside. She's doing a whole parent swap as her parents got divorced. Dawson's parents are in the process of divorce. So, common ground for these two. So, yeah, we're
But
integrating
common
some
ground, but in emotional intelligence and not emotional intelligence.
essentially, yes. So, but they do come to an even playing field by the end of the
They
episode.
do to a
Yes.
degree.
Andie's bit is not incredibly interesting. She's kind of making this big deal about getting in early and admissions, and then she kind of meets this another black character. Hey. Um and ends up kind of having this long talk with her about her experiences and all of her children, and Andie just
Yeah.
kind of gets some much needed perspective on kind of how much pressure she's putting on herself and everything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, which I think is always important. We're at a time of year now that's very, very exam heavy for people, isn't it?
Yeah.
And coming to the end of the school year and
Stress
things like
and
that.
yeah.
Um, and it's important to realize that, yes, these things are very important if you want to progress in that academic sense, or in that kind of
Yeah.
educational sense. But they are not the be-all and end-all of everything. They should be taken strictly seriously, 100%, to give yourself the most opportunity, but it is not the end of the world. It is, you cannot think, if I don't do well at this, if I don't get into this college, if I don't get into this
end of the
university,
world. Yeah.
then it is literally the end of
My
my entire
future's
life,
done.
and I will be, you know, some sort of bum on the street. It won't
Yes.
happen like that.
Yes,
That's
and that's
not
where
what
Andie is when
happens.
and that's where Andie is when she kind of steps onto campus. So for her to get this perspective from somebody is kind of what she needed. So yeah, not anything groundbreaking really with Andie, but then we move on to Joey. She signs
Yes.
up to have a
Who's this
roommate.
man? Who's this? Get rid of him. I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
Even after his kind of little
No, I don't.
redemptive
I
kindness,
don't like him at all. I didn't see any redemptiveness there at all.
him taking
He
her
was
to
he
the
was
little secret library and showing her the original copy of the book, her favorite book, and this whole
he
thing.
was covering his tracks because he'd been rude. I don't like him.
Well, I mean, he could have continued to be rude. So, you know, you're not gonna give him even a sliver of credit for, you know,
No,
rebounding and
no,
being
no,
nice.
no, no.
Well, yes, Joey signs up to be a weekend roommate to a college student who's gonna show her the experience. She's thinking she's meeting this girl named AJ. He's thinking he's meeting some guy named Joseph. And it turns out, no, AJ is a guy, Joey is a girl. He kind of blows her off as like, you know, high school kid, I gotta get my paper done, leave me alone. I think, you know, he's a teaching assistant as well, so she kind of sits in on one
Yeah.
of the classes that he's conducting, and he asks her what her favorite book is, and she says Little Women, and then of course the whole class kind of eviscerates the choice of, because it's like, you know,
Why?
I think the conversation is, you know, best and favorite kind of thing.
Yes, but I don't get. I hate these sort of conversations as well. I
Yes, I
actually don't
think
get the what are you talking about? You're having some sort of analytical conversation about what somebody's favorite book is. You can't have an analytical conversation about what somebody's favorite book is because
yeah,
it's
because
personal to them. It
ex-
can't be broken down.
yes. Well, that's what he kind of says. So, you know, obviously, just because you love it doesn't make it the best book of whatever. No, no, no.
Like it
But
does
Joey
to
didn't even
Joey
say
though.
that.
So
And Joey didn't even say that. Like she just said, I was asked, "What's your favorite book?" and she answered. And so then all of them kind of come for
it's like
her.
okay,
Yes.
if we're talking about objective best of the best. I remember doing this kind of stuff in my film class when I went to college when I was like 17, 18.
Yeah.
And one of our actual graded, final exam questions, you had to write, it was essay exams, right? So you had to write like 3 essays or something in the space of 3.5 hours all in one go. It was horrific.
Yeah.
But one of them, literally, the question was basically, Vertigo has been named by Sight and Sound as the #1 movie. Why? And that was, you had to write an essay on why objectively
That
Vertigo
was
might be
seen
thought of as the
as the
best
best movie.
movie.
Yeah.
And that it was very, very interesting to kind of get into because you had to think totally objectively about what
Yeah,
makes
and not
a
kind of bring in
movie
your own opinions.
great.
Yeah.
No opinion whatsoever could be
Yeah.
had. It had to be very, very objective. This question was all about Little Women, was all about opinion. So I don't get why they're all like, oh, that's the wrong opinion. You can't be having that. Why? That's what
Yeah,
Joey
and
likes.
yeah, that's very similar to the Dawson and the Spielberg thing as well. So I like that they're
It
having kind
is.
of these parallel situations at the same time. So yeah,
And
I think
also,
Joey's reaction after the class is incredibly valid when she's very, like, oh, you know, you're sicking all your little overeducated, minions on me
it really
just
is.
for the book I like and this whole kind of thing.
Because it's
Um
not like either that from Dawson's side Spielberg or from Joey's side Little Women, the hardly poorly thought of things either, are they?
Exactly.
Spielberg, incredibly well thought of. Little Women, incredibly well thought of. But just because
but
it's
in a
not
college setting, it's
Jane
seen as
Eyre,
juvenile and, immature and this whole kind of thing. An idealistic, which just speaks to immaturity, I guess. So, yeah, it's just
the turn of the millennium does not like looking at things in an idealistic way, do they?
no, they
They
don't.
just don't
They
as a
don't.
culture.
Yeah, they don't. So yeah, he ultimately is kind of rude to her and he decides to make it up to her. So he takes her kind of this private library and takes her and shows her like Louisa May Alcott's her actual
Yes,
personal
like,
copy
yes,
of
very, very
of
interesting.
Little Women, and they kind of read from it and have a cute little moment. And
That's
she
maybe why I
tells
thought
him
it was Harvard as well, because I don't see why some random Boston university would have that and not it be like
a bigger
a major university,
Well, don't underestimate Boston University. So, yeah, they have this very kind
Sorry,
of sweet
Boston.
moment. She, talks to him about her mother and that like she used to read it to her all the time. That was her mother's favorite book. That's why she named her Josephine after
Yes.
Joe in the book. And so, yeah, they ultimately kind of leave the weekend having a really good time together. And it seems like there's maybe some sparks happening.
There does.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of where we leave it. Joey kind of has this kind of cute little thing happening with AJ, and Jack and Dawson make new little friends. So yeah.
Mm. I don't I can only see uh, Dawson and Nikki just getting into argument after argument after argument, though, about what's good and what's not good, and it occasionally becoming far too annoying
Yeah.
for kind of anybody's viewing pleasure. But Jack's relationships, I'm interested in. I want to see the man become loved. I do.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. You want to see that for Jack? But
And
yeah,
I
so
wanna see more football from him as well.
okay. Yeah, I
No
don't
mo
know that we
we've
get
not had any football for a
I don't
while.
know that we get much more football in this season. I
Well,
don't
that's not
remember.
well, mind you, they
But
did win, I suppose. They did win the or did they win the
no, they
championship, or did
didn't
they win a
win.
no, they just won a game.
No, because I think when Andie is reading some of the letters that Jack got from the report that Dawson did, he got a letter saying it's a good thing you guys didn't win the championship because then, I would have kicked your ass or, something if we
Ah,
played your
okay.
school or something. So, yeah. But
I see.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So things are
Interesting,
brewing.
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, plenty of things brewing. More things we even thought were brewing are
Yes.
brewing. The witches brew from Witch Island. That's what's going on. I'm led to
Yes.
believe that we have something good happening next episode.
Um
And Dawson's going to go.
Yeah, so we're this is the fun episode. We're gonna get the uh the prospective opening of the Potter B&B, and
Ah,
uh somebody is going to step up in a big way to help make this happen for the Potters. So
okay, okay.
yes.
Interesting. It's not Mike Potter who inexplicably escapes from prison and comes back, is it, by any chance, that he deserves to do because he did nothing wrong?
I mean, he did do something wrong,
He
but
didn't do anything wrong. He was all in good. It was all for his family.
it was still wrong. Um,
No, it
but
was for. It wasn't wrong. It was for his family. He wasn't selling drugs to children.
you don't know where those drugs were going.
Yeah, I do. They were going to
His dealings
the big
almost got
cities.
his family killed and burned in a fire.
That wasn't his fault. I like Mike Potter.
Okay, I appreciate Mike Potter Stan. But yes, so the opening of the Potter B&B, everything's kind of going wrong, and somebody steps up in a big way to help them
Okay,
out.
okay.
So it's very
Somebody.
cute. Yes.
It's definitely not Dawson. He doesn't have that capability.
Well, I mean, it's a really kind of fun thing where everybody steps up, but one person in particular, is leading the charge, and it's very sweet. Okay. Yes, and sentimental. Good. So, yes.
Interesting. Very nice. Discovering Dawson's Creek. Morgan Hasn't Seen TV here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Do subscribe. Ding your notification bell up there. Of course, we've had things scrolling down at the bottom of the screen all episode long as well. Patreon donations, social media links, all in the description. This show alternates every Monday here on the channel with Talking Ted Lasso at the minute. Which we are coming closer to the end of season 2.
Yes.
Talking to Lasso there. We've only one more season, obviously, to go after that, because season 4, I don't even think has started production yet.
No, so we'll definitely have some time.
So that's exciting. We're having conversations on what to fill in the gap there from when we finish Ted Lasso, which is going to be interesting.
Yes.
But we always look forward to more Dawson's Creek as well every other week here. Of course, subscribe to the main podcast feed as well for Morgan Hasn't Seen the parent show, the movie show, and of course the main show celebrating old movies every Friday over on It's a Wonderful Podcast. But that's going to do it, which means I do think there's only one thing left to do. And in your most self-righteous, oh dear, I'm not as good as I think I am, Dawson Leary voice, please, Janine, take us out.
3, 2, 1, I'm Dawson.